Hey YouTube, it's Manny. Today we're going to set up a source code repository for our project. You might be thinking, when do we get to sling some code? Well, let me tell you, backing up your code is one of the most important things you can do. There's nothing worse than losing a day of coding because your PC pooped the bed. You can use something like GitHub, but I'm choosing the Amazon Web Services for the code repository because they offer free tier and I'm a lot more familiar with AWS than any other system. I also plan on using a few other AWS services to build and deploy the bot, so it makes it easier if everything's in the same place. So in this video, I'll be covering how to set up Amazon's or AWS's CodeCommit using CloudFormation. I'll then show you how to add your current Python development environment to the repository. Before we start, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and ding that notification bell so you know when there's new videos. And if you're looking for any help with what we've covered, you can find me on the Militia Discord server. The link is in the description below. Since we're on Windows, we'll first be setting up Git Bash, which will make working with Git repository and CodeCommit much easier. Open up Chrome and go to gitforwindows.org. I'll put all these links in the description below. Hit download. I'm going to download it and save it in the downloads directory. Doesn't matter where. Once it finishes, double click and execute the installer. We're going to be using all the default values, so we're just going to click through. And we'll launch. It's installed. We'll come back to this in a little bit. Now we're going to set up our source control management, which I said earlier was going to be CodeCommit in one of AWS's services. I'm going to try to exclusively use all AWS's services and keep everything on their free tier. I went ahead and created a CloudFormation YAML file to set up all the needed infrastructure for this. So let's look at that file real quickly. So here's the YAML file. It's got some boilerplate at the top, just the format version and description of the stack. And the next one is parameter email address. You have to enter in your email address. I'm going to make this file available to you guys so you can actually use it, follow along, create the stuff as I created it because I modified all this. I want to make it so that you can put your email address. I could hard code mine in here. Not going to do that. All right, so then you have the repo user. This is the user that actually is going to connect from your PC up to CodeCommit. He needs two policies. He needs CodeCommit power user policy, and he actually needs the ability for IAM users SSH keys. Now, the next thing we create is our SNS topic. This actually is just anytime someone notifies this topic of something, it's going to email this address. So we have the reference to this email address in here. Now, is the actual repository is the next thing. It's called repository, and it's a CodeCommit. We have the repository name, we have the description, and then we have a trigger. So anytime an event happens on the master branch, we will notify the SNS topic right here. So it emails you. That's the file. Now that we've gone over the file, we're going to have CloudFormation actually execute this file. So let's open up a new web browser and go to console.aws.amazon.com. Create a free account if you haven't already done so, or log in if you already have one. Now we're going to go, you probably may not have recently visited. So what you want to do is type CloudFormation in here and actually click on this. And there's no stacks. If you had some stacks available, you would see them here. So we're going to say create stack. We have template is ready. We're going to actually upload a template file. We're going to choose a file from our local directory and CodeCommit file. That's my file. I'm going to hit next. Now we have to enter in a stack name. I'm going to call it Militia Discord app. We're going to type in our email address, which is mannyockrity@gmail.com. Whatever you want. Next. And then everything else we're going to leave default. You can go through and check it out. Hit next. We've got one more screen. We're going to scroll down. You can parameters and stuff like that. You can see what I typed in here. This is what we're going to set. And you scroll to the bottom. And then you see this little information thing. It should probably be a warning as opposed to information, but it's the very same thing. It's acknowledging that I'm letting CloudFormation create IAM credentials, which are identity and access management. I'm going to let it do it. I say yes and create the stack. Now, this is going to take a little while, so we'll come back to it when it's done. Well, CloudFormation is running. We're going to open up our Git Bash program again, and we're going to actually generate our SSH keys that we'll have to apply to our IAM user. So SSH-keygen, hit enter, and just use defaults. And it's generated. Now, we're going to have to open up and copy our public key. So let's go change to .ssh. And in here, you have two files. You have IDA RSA. This is your private key. Don't ever show this. Keep that secure. And this is your public file, ID_RSA pub. So we're going to say vi id dot pub, enter, and we're going to copy this. Copied. Now we're going to go back, see if this is done. We're going to hit actually refresh, create complete, events. Let's just refresh the page so we can actually see everything created. And here's everything. We got our repo user, repository, SNS topic, repo user, Discord app. All right. So if we go to services and we type in CodeCommit, click on this, we can actually see here is our repo created. It is empty. Now let's go and look at our IAM users or user. We have a user created, and there it is. Now we're going to go to security credentials, and we're going to scroll down a little bit. We'll see upload SSH public key. We're going to click on this. We're going to paste in what we just copied and upload. Now we're going to take this key and copy it. I'm going to go back into the Git Bash application, and I'm actually going to use VI for most of my editing. You use Notepad or whatever you want, but you're just going to make sure that you edit this, which is VI, your config file. It's a comp file inside the .ssh directory, and we're going to actually type something in here, and it's going to be this. It's host space git dash codecommit dot asterisk dot amazon aws.com. Hit enter. Then you're going to type user. You're going to paste in the SSH key that you copied below. Hit enter again. And then you're going to type in identity file space tilde slash dot ssh slash ID underscore RSA. This is the location of your private key file. So it's identifying that. Then we're just going to save it. And now we can actually test our connection by typing SSH space git dash codecommit dot us dash east dash 2 dot amazon.aws.com. Enter. And yes, we do want to save it and connect. And you can see right here, we actually did successfully authenticate. So we're good to go. Next thing I'm going to do is actually set up a couple of Git global parameters. And the first one is actually our email address. And that is done by saying git config dash dash global user.email, and then in quotes, you put your email address. And the other one is going to be our actual global username. Very similar, git config dash dash global user.name Manny. What these do is identify you when you push your commits up to the cloud, or actually say they identify you locally for your commits that this is my username and this is my email address. All right, before we make our Python project into a Git repository, let's create one more file. In the root directory of our project, we're going to actually create a new file called .git ignore. And it does exactly what it sounds like it's going to do. It's going to tell Git to ignore these files or directories. So the first directory is .idea. This is actually a directory created by PyCharms, and it has all your local environment variables set. So we want to ignore that. We don't want to push all that stuff up. It's a lot of bloated stuff. The other one is the actual Python virtual environment, which is the VNV directory right here. We don't want to push all this because this actually gets compiled and built when you have the project open in PyCharm. So do not push that stuff up. All right, so let's go back to Git Bash. And now we're in the .ssh directory. Let's change directories to our project directory. So we're going to go down one level. PyCharms, this is the location that I have. It's in PyCharm project / militia Discord app. You have to go to yours, whichever it is, in here. Now we're going to type Git Knit, which is going to initialize this project as a Git project and create the .git file and do all the things it needs to do for that. We're going to say Git add and dot. This is going to add all the files in this directory, excluding those ones that are identified in the Git ignore directory, which for us should be 2. I'm going to do git commit -m, and we're going to do a message. And we're going to say initial commit. Hit enter. And you can see we says 2 files added. So that's our git ignore file and our bot.py file. Now, we actually get to type git remote add origin. And now we actually have to go back to Amazon Web Services and get the actual URL for the SSH connection port for our repository. So in here, we're going to go to services. We're going to go to CodeCommit. And here's our repo. We're going to go all the way over at clone URL. We're going to hit SSH, open up Git Bash again, and we're just going to paste it in there. Hit enter. All right, now we're all set there. We're going to go git push origin master. hit enter. We do want to basically add it, continue to connect, and voila, we pushed. Now go back here. If we hit refresh here, class modified just now, click on name, git ignore, and bot.py, both added. One last thing before we close up is we actually want to set the upstream, because we don't want to be typing git push origin master every time we want to push our commit. Instead, we just want to do git push. Now, I could have solved this by doing git push u -u origin master, but I didn't. I forgot to. So what we have to do now instead is actually type out git push --set -upstream origin master. This will actually set our upstream to track. So now we could just do it when we want to push commits. We just do git push and it'll automatically push to the master branch. I know this video had nothing to do with a Discord bot, but this is really an important step when doing any kind of development. The next few videos will be similar in covering setting up more infrastructure, which I promise will help us develop quicker. I hope you did enjoy the video and found it helpful. If you did, please hit the like button below and leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. If you'd like to see more content like this, then smash that subscribe button. And if you have any questions about what we covered in this or any other videos, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Maniocrity, where I stream Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Till next time, YouTube, take it easy.